Hi, everybody. It's, let's see, 6:03, and we're going to start our Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council meeting.
Are you on?
So let's go ahead and start off by saying that we welcome everyone. And it's still hard for me, maybe for you all, to get used to the fact that we're meeting in person. This is the third time. It really still feels good. But I want to say that I think we as individual board members need to kind of remind our constituent communities that we represent, to come out and every Monday or once a month Monday is not a holiday, so they can come out and help us figure out what we want. But making sure that we do represent our communities as we move forward and take inventory of our constituent communities. So with that, I want to go ahead and call this meeting to order. And with that, let's go ahead and take roll call. You can say.
There we go. Power is on now. Okay, John Barbera.
Here.
Vic Christensen here. John DeMiglio. Here. Dan Dixon.
Here.
Craig Goldfarb. Cynthia Gagne. Gwen Henry. Melanie Lebrecq.
Here.
Kelly Miller.
Here.
Ben Norman.
Here.
Thomas Norman.
Present.
Ray Regalado.
Here.
David Samperio. Adam Stevenson.
Here.
Angela Sumner.
Here.
Chris Valle.
Here.
We have 12, so that is a quorum.
So I just want to announce if there are any students that are here who need government time or whatever it is that they call it at school. It's been a while since I've been in school, but whoever needs it, let us know so that we can reflect it, and then we can also let your teachers know. So we're going to start off with agenda item number 2, and that let me also say that we made a decision last month that we're going to start ending our meetings at 8:30. And it's really important that we keep that in mind as we move along in our meeting to make sure that we stay as efficient as possible in our meetings so that we can get the main points expressed and that we represent our constituent communities that we are representing. Which means that also we're going to have to be thoughtful about our comments. We try to keep them as complete as possible, but we also need to be as compact on these things as possible. So please keep that in mind. If people are repeating, the same comment over and over again, or I've even heard at times some people will identify that they agree with someone else who said something by just raising their hand and saying ditto. I'm not sure that we need ditto. Just as long as we keep the comments going and we make sure that we get everything that's stated. We have a very important presentation that we're going to be having earlier today or later this evening, and we are going to make sure that everyone has an opportunity to say what they need to be said. And then we're also going to make sure that our items later on in the agenda, we may have to limit the length of time that our public comment or our comments afterwards are given so that we can make our time frame. We have people who depend on us trying to be efficient with our time. I'll say Parks and Rec, the John who handles our time, our audio equipment, and also the people who set up our audiovisual stuff. It's really important that we try to make sure that we get everybody out of here at a time so that they don't have to stay up too late. So with that said, I'm going to go ahead and move on to public comment, general public comment. That's agenda item number 2. And I do have cards from some people, so if there's any other general comment pieces you want to say, please say it. Public comment is limited to 2 minutes. And so we're going to go ahead and start off with Adam Stevenson.
Good evening. I make this comment as a stakeholder. We all know on this Saturday, there'll be a lot going on Saturday, June 17th. But I wanted to make mention of the Juneteenth celebration that will be happening right here at Peck Park. And so just a few things that we wanted to highlight. It will be Saturday from 10 to 6. And one of the special moments is, I believe, on our agenda between 1 and 2. The council member will be here with us where we give out community service awards, and we also present scholarships every year to high school graduates who will be going to college. So, and along with that, one of the highlights will be we have a STEAM truck coming for some educational opportunities for the children, as long as an aviation presentation, and then your normal entertainment and things of that nature that will be going on. In terms of those who may be concerned about safety, we have met with the LAPD, and while they will be there, it is our hope that they can just be in community and get to know the community a little better. And so what we've done is we've hired security to be there. So that way it is a fun, safe day for everyone. That is my comment, and thank you for my time.
Thank you. Next, we have Nilo Michelin.
Thank you. My name is Nilo Michelin like the tires, and I'm a candidate for State Senate District 35. It's all the way from San Pedro to LAX, and I'm an LAUSD teacher. I used to teach at Dana Middle School and at Carson High School. I'm also El Camino College board member, and I played Little League right here at Peck Park, and when I was in high school, I ran cross country here in Peck Park, so I could tell you some of those hills back there are pretty strenuous. I am running for a State Senate. My platform includes environmental justice. I think our communities around here in Wilmington, in San Pedro, have suffered a lot through trucks, pollution, and now through the closure of the Vincent Thomas Bridge. So I'm going to be looking forward to the presentation. And also, we need more affordable housing to end homelessness and for our youth, for our students. And we need clean money for our elections. So again, my name is Nilo Michelin, like the tires, for the State Senate. The election will be March the 5th. So this March the 5th, 2024. The senator right now, Senator Bradford, he is termed out, so it's an open seat. So it's everything pretty much from San Pedro, Wilmington, Harbor City, Compton, all the way up to Hawthorne and LAX. So I'm passing out my cards. If you have any questions, please email me, nilomichelin@gmail.com, or look at my website, nilomichelin.com. And as a former city council member, I just want to thank everybody for your service. This looks like a very involved neighborhood council with all those subcommittees and everything. So thank you for your service, and thank you for volunteering. Thank you.
Next public comment speaker card is from Vic Christensen.
This is also as a stakeholder. I am just giving a quick update on Senate Bills 411 and 537. 411 is the...
Microphone?
Real?
Yeah.
I was hearing something. There we go. Okay. Quick update on Senate Bills 411 and 537. 411 is the one that is specifically for neighborhood councils to allow us to go back to up to 100% virtual meetings. That one made it through the Senate completely. The last meeting, it was the full Senate, it was 30 ayes, 5 nays, and 5 absences. and 411 goes to the Assembly now, to the Local Government Committee. I don't have a date on when that's going to happen. But the Senator Portantino, who is the sponsor of 411, has a staff member who is very good at giving us the information on when things happen. 537 is for appointed bodies, so right now it is not for us, but I'm not confident that we couldn't get pulled into it later. That one also, and that one is more like AB 2449. That one made it through the Senate as well with 32 ayes, 8 nays, and 0 absences, so a total of 40 votes possible for each. And right now, that one I think is in a holding pattern. I don't have any information on where it goes next, but I'm guessing it will be the same path as 411 by going to the Local Government Committee, and probably after that, the Budget Committee. And that's all.
Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the end of our... we have one more.
Hey, Mr. Chair, could I give my report now for CD15? Would that be wildly out of order?
Okay, go ahead. Sure.
Okay, thank you. It's very good to see you all, honorable members of the Neighborhood Council. Sorry that Amanda's not here. She had a family emergency, so I'm going to make a quick report in her stead. We're working on a couple of items. This is the Office of Councilmember Tim McCosker, working on a couple of items with building and safety in Northwest, including Target and an area near Battery and Myler. So near Battery and Myler, there's a lot of overgrown vegetation, particularly at a private residence. So we're working on getting them into compliance. Building and safety went out to go and inspect that. They also went out to the Target and they talked to the property manager. And so they said that they're going to work on the irrigation on the private property. On the public property side, we're going to work on getting a cleanup. It's probably going to have to be a little more intensive than a street sweeping, so we're kind of strategizing on what that would look like. We're also going to look at doing a street sweep or something more intensive for the bike lanes going on Gaffey North toward 5 Points, because there is a lot of sand on those bike lanes. In addition to that, you're welcome to share any ideas or concerns you have with our office via phone, email, or our new online form on our website. On the Tim McCosker CD15 website, there is a new online form, and you can submit your comments or concerns that way. Many of the issues and areas of concern that we work on can be reported on 311 via the phone call, phone app, or the website. Internally, we use 311 as well, so we use the same exact software. And then this weekend there's a Pride event, and there's also a Juneteenth event, as was previously mentioned. So you're welcome to attend those or contact our office for more event information.
Thank you. Since we are taking this one out of order, any questions for the council members' representative, Christian?
So building and safety, they didn't tell me that there was like a wild violation that would be like on a timeline. So we didn't really have anything else to add to that. So I will give you an update, hopefully, or Amanda probably will at the next meeting, or you're welcome to call us.
Or just give me a call. My biggest concern is we've known about this for over 8 months. It's the closure building there, and it's a constant problem. And the property management plan is supposed to take care of it. Now the building safety is involved in it. Now they are still, I've seen no action over there, them doing anything. It still looks the same. So I'm concerned.
Noted.
It needs to be like where they have to have by such and such date, they need to fix this, or, type of thing.
I'll speak to District Director Erica Velasquez about maybe working on that aspect.
Okay, thank you.
Craig?
Okay, so after a lot of crying, I see you guys are going to take care of North Gaffey bike lanes. What is the policy of the city and of CD15 about maintaining bike lanes?
So I cannot speak about protected bike lanes because that I know nothing about. And I don't know about the painted aspect either, but I'll just say we treat them, if it's not a protected bike lane, it's just like a street. And so they're kept up at the same rate as a street is, which often is understandably not acceptable to the public. And we do have a lot of streets. It's not an excuse, but we are always trying to strategize on the funding for the streets. I think we have the mayor's representative here. She might be able to give a better answer to that on the timeline for streets, but that's all I know.
So on protected bike lanes, they're supposed to do more?
That I don't know. I said I can only talk about what I know, my own knowledge. So protected bike lanes are the kind where there's like a separate kind of lane. So I don't know the timeline on that or the schedule.
Like on Anaheim, right around the corner from North Gaffey.
More of like what's going on in Watts. So there's like it can become like a separate lane. They have them in Long Beach too, where it's kind of like there's like a barrier. There's like a cement barrier. So that's kind of what I was talking about when I meant protected. But if you mean with bollards, I don't know that either.
Any other
Can you
questions?
find out?
Of course, yes. So you want to know what is there a different timeline of upkeep versus the street? Is that what it would be? Or just the general, like what's the upkeep of the bike lanes?
Basically, general upkeep. My question is, the city has this whole bike plan, but they don't maintain their bike lanes. We have them all over the place. You've had an accident riding your bike that put you in the hospital. Now, I've had the same thing 3 months ago. I see people riding these bike lanes, and they can't even go in the bike lanes because they're so junked up. So I want to know what is the city, what is CD15 going to do to protect our citizens that have to ride in these bike lanes? That the city is encouraging us to do this.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? I see no other hands. Any hands from the constituents? No hands. Christian, thank you so much for being here. I know this was kind of out of your scheduled time, so be here. Thank you for being here.
It was a pleasure to see you all again. Thank you, Mr. President.
So we did take that one out of order. We're going to go ahead and get back to the agenda. And we are through with, we had just completed the agenda item number 2. We're going to move on to agenda item number 3, and that's election update for 2023. And John?
So everybody knows next month we're going to have the 3 new board members joining us. Some of them are here in the audience now. And also, we'd like to thank the previous board members that have been here. Dan Dixon, who's been on the board for quite a long time. 2 centuries, right?
Since I had there.
And also David Samperio, he's not here with us. But, Dan has served many years on the board and has done a fantastic job, but he will still stay on the Issues Committee and will still be working with us on that half. And that's it. We're going to swear in them next month.
Okay.
Not swear at them, but swear them in.
Gotcha. Okay. So now I made a mistake, and I forgot that we had one more speaker card under agenda item number 2. Agenda item number 2. It's my mistake. Maybe it's just my way of really my heartstrings pulling here. So we're gonna take any questions associated with the agenda item number 3 with the elections, and if we don't have any, I'm gonna kind of go back to our agenda item number 3 and get the last public comment period. So if you have any questions about the elections or what's coming up, please raise your hand. And I see no hands raised, so I'm going to officially close out agenda item number 3. Thank you, John. And John, thank you all your help for our elections.
Thank you.
So moving back to agenda item number 2, so I can correct my mistake. Our 4th public speaking card goes to Dan Dixon.
May I?
Yes, you may.
Thank you.
You need a wheelchair?
Wheelchair. I think I have spoken in public comment a few times, but I don't think I've ever submitted a speaker comment card. So I thought I'd finish out my tenure with that, although I hope to be providing some in the future on issues of interest. 17 years ago, I got involved with a group of neighbors who did not like the odor from some tanks near our homes down in the Gaffey corridor. And a 17-year story cut short, that led many years later to the development of Harbor Highlands Homes. But that was the beginning of my involvement with the board. A young neighbor of ours was one of the first youth representatives on the board, and she worked me over to get me to run, and I'm glad she did. It's been life-changing for me. It's been a wonderful experience. I will also say that my grandchildren now live at Harbor Highlands, so I should have recused myself those many years ago since I had an interest in it, but I didn't know that. This is a remarkable group of people. It always has been, and it will continue to be. Some of the faces are new. Most of the faces are new, except this one, at least in this room right now. Oh, well, Christina, you've been here too. But you were a teenager, so just you're a great group. All the individuals come together to make a terrific group of people who work on issues both sometimes trivial, but often serious and with long-term consequences. It isn't an easy job ever to try to volunteer to exert influence in any situation, but I think this neighborhood council, along with others, but this neighborhood council, which is deep in my heart, has done a great job of doing just that. Our influence, I believe, exceeds what it feels like in this room. And I'm very pleased that there is an active city council member right now for this district who gets us, who wants us and the other neighborhood councils to succeed, and is apparently willing to work with us. It's very exhilarating. I look forward to working with all of you, and I won't mention any names other than Christina, but you're all dear to me as friends and colleagues. I have been very blessed to be a part of this group, and you're not rid of me yet. My buddy over there in the corner and I will continue to look at community issues with you and hopefully try to make a difference. I want to thank you all very much, and I'll see you, as we say on North Cabrillo Avenue, I'll see you on the block. Thank you.
all of you have seen the movie Judge Dredd, he's going to take the walk like the other judge did.
I guess that's why I had decided not to skip. I decided to skip over him because I was. It's heartbreaking to me to see that he's going to fade away from this group. But I know Dan is going to just fly like an eagle when it comes to community issues and continue his participation in our community. Because thank you, Dan, for all your time with us.
He's lost his feathers. He ain't
So now officially we are through with general public comment. Officially we're through with agenda item number 3, the election update. So that brings us to agenda item number 4, and that is our presentation for the evening. This is the representatives from Caltrans. They're going to be talking about the redecking of the Vincent Thomas Bridge. So we're going to give them the opportunity to present, and then there'll be time for people to, make comment, and then maybe ask a question or two. So.
Great. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council, for letting us come before you and speak. I'm just going to give a great, thankfulness for Caltrans being able to come before you today. I know that we're kind of under the gun in terms of time, so we're going to get right to it. I'm going to hand it over to Osama, and Osama is going to give the project overview of the Vincent Thomas Bridge deck replacement project. Thank you.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting us. My name is Osama Migalla. I am from Project Management in Caltrans District 7. And my office is in charge of the Vincent Thomas Bridge Deck Replacement Project. So, next slide. Okay. You could see here, this is, of course, the famous Vincent Thomas Bridge. It's a suspension bridge over in the harbor area. Next slide. Okay, the purpose is basically preserve the functionality and the structural integrity of the Vincent Thomas Bridge, and also enhance the overall bridge safety. The deck is basically a major element of the project, of the bridge, so protecting it, we actually are protecting the entire bridge. The bridge deck has been in service for over 60 years and has been subject to pounding by heavy trucks. And because of the concrete fatigue over time, we've been doing some patches to the deck, and it's not really sufficient. So basically, the rating of the bridge dropped from fair to poor, so it requires the replacement of the deck. Next slide. Those are the existing conditions. You see here the east approach and also the west approach and the main span. Next. The overall length of the bridge is a little bit over 6,000 feet. And it was built in 1963, and daily traffic is 53,000 cars and trucks. Trucks are 8.8 or almost 9% of the volume, the daily volume. And next, please. You could see here the pictures depicts the bad condition. You could see those patches. They are actually previous repairs that we did with specialty materials, but we start seeing some delaminations, and you see the concrete start delaminating because of the fatigue, separating from the rebars, so we really have to take quick action to get it restored. Next. We have one build alternative only, which is, of course, replace the entire bridge deck. And we're going to replace the seismic sensors. Seismic sensors basically tells us each time we have an event, like earthquake event, how much forces the bridge was subjected to, and tell us if the bridge requires urgent work or not to restore it to a safe condition. Hopefully we don't have to do so. Also, we are upgrading the existing bridge railings, and also we are improving or replacing the median barrier to the latest standards to make it safer for the traveling public. Next one. Here's the project schedule. We just started last February, basically. So we are now at the scoping phase, and the scoping period just got extended until July 10th. And we expect to have the environmental document hopefully approved by May of 2024. And then we have about 14 months to finish design. So we're going to end by July 2023. And then we could give the contractor notice to proceed by October of 2025. And then hopefully we could open to traffic by March 2027. I know it's kind of an aggressive schedule, but we're going to bring in a consultant, a contractor on board while us doing the design, so we could to figure out the best means and methods of doing this work in a expedited manner, so we don't inconvenience the public more than it should be. Next, please. We have the construction staging. The first stage is a single stage. Basically, it's a full closure, 9 to 12 months, and we're going to completely close the bridge to traffic and set up permanent detour for the entire period of construction. It's going to be 24/7 work. We're going to have multiple crews. And, of course, we're going to remove the existing bridge deck one time and then replace with a new bridge deck. And then we open to traffic. So this is number one alternative. Number two, which is two-stage construction, basically it's going to take 24 to 30 months with no closure. And what we're going to do, stage one, we fix the right half of the bridge. We're going to have one lane open, only one lane, and we close the other 3 lanes. And then we're going to have a signal at both ends of the bridge to determine which direction of traffic will be allowed in the bridge at that time. And once we are done with the first half, we go to the second half, and so on. And basically, this is alternative number 2 or option number 2 that's still being developed as we speak, so it's still work in progress. Again, the information I'm giving you is just the preliminary information. It's going to be changing as we progress the design work. And we're going to get you involved. We're going to be, a representative of this neighborhood council will be on the community advisory committee. So a member of each interest group will be sitting with us to get the latest updates as we progress. And also we're going to ask you for your feedback. So don't consider what we are presenting to you now, it's just a final. No, it's not a final thing. Next slide, please. And then we have 3 stages of construction where we fix 1/3 of the bridge at a time. And the problem with that is the period takes from 30 to 36 months. And so basically the inconvenience to the public will be more. So instead of fixing half, we are fixing 1/3 and so on. So we're going to keep one lane open to traffic in each way, but at the price which is extending the construction duration. So the inconvenience and the detours will be a little bit increased, but again, this is not final. It's just work in progress. Next, please. And this is the conceptual detour routes. and we are still working on the traffic numbers, and we may expand the detour area, not just to this map. We may go even north to Sepulveda and even the 405. So again, this is still just preliminary work in progress. Okay, next slide. Okay, the environmental process, I get my colleague Jason.
Thanks, Osama. Hello, Northwest San Pedro. I'm excited to be here tonight. I am a 38-year resident of the South Bay, and I'm very familiar with San Pedro. I know San Pedro is now Torrance, that's where I'm from, but this is our third neighborhood council meeting, and they've been very interesting and enlightening to the project team for this project. So, as Osama said, we've extended scoping until July 10th, and we start getting questions on what exactly is scoping. Scoping is the first opportunity for the public to get involved in the project. We have only preliminary information. We have a general idea of how we're going to replace the bridge deck. We have 4 construction staging options that were just explained. So we want to hear from the community. We want to define any major issues that we need to really focus on, find out unique community concerns that may not be on our radar. That's what we're here to listen to you. And so your role is to get involved now. The best thing to do during scoping is to submit a formal scoping comment in writing via email, or you can send it straight to our office in Los Angeles, and we have all of that information on where it can be sent. And that gets you on the distribution list. It gets you along for the ride, so to speak, on next steps. Next slide, please. So we're going to be doing an environmental impact report for this project, which is a very high-level environmental document. It's the highest level document that you can do. We have some key environmental issues that it's going to focus on, though. And the first 2 are of utmost importance: traffic and community impacts. We already know that we're going to have detours for an extended amount of time. They are temporary, just while we're constructing the new bridge deck. However, it looks like it's going to be at least a year of disruption and detour routes going through primarily through Wilmington. So those 2 first ones are very much intertwined, and we've just started the community impact assessment about a month ago. So we're just starting, and now is the time for us to hear from the community. What would you like us to focus on? What are the unique characteristics? What should we be looking at as we move forward? The other interesting thing about this bridge is that it's historic. This bridge is a historic resource that is basically protected. We're not going to be going out there and modernizing the facility with crazy new handrails, or it's going to look essentially the way it looks now. The fencing might be a little bit different. We are going to be upgrading the rails and the median barrier to current safety standards. But we're working closely with the State Historic Preservation Office, and we've already run by what we think the bridge rails are going to look like, the pavement, and we're confident that it's not going to have an adverse effect on this beautiful historic resource. The other one is that not a lot of people know this, but there's peregrine falcons that are nesting underneath the bridge, and that nest is going to have to be relocated during construction. So we're working closely with the California Department of Fish and Wildlife to relocate that before construction, and that's not going to happen until we actually construct. So right now we're doing surveys to see exactly how the nesting and the flights and the bird livability is progressing. So those are 4 of the main issues. So we've been doing a lot of outreach since we started scoping, and what we've heard so far is that the community of Wilmington has got bad roads. They're not happy with the condition of their roads as it is. They're not happy with the amount of trucks that are actually going through there now, and they don't want any more trucks going through their community. We've also had multiple requests to formulate a community advisory committee, and Osama had mentioned briefly that we are going to be doing that. We have just started putting together the framework and the methodology and how that's actually going to work. But for you guys at the Neighborhood Council, all of the neighborhood councils involved will be looking for one representative to join the Community Advisory Committee, and we'll be having regular meetings to give you status as we go. The other thing we've heard is, why don't you just build a new bridge? That way you won't have any disruptions to the community. That is not on the table. This bridge is structurally fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It just needs to have the bridge deck replaced. So we are not looking at replacing the bridge with a new bridge. We're just going to be replacing the bridge deck and the bridge railings. Okay, next slide. So we started this project in winter of 2022. We realized that the closure and the detours were going to be very long, and so we initially thought we would do a relatively minor environmental document, but then it turned out it was going to take a year to close it, and now we're doing a very high-level document. So we're in scoping now. You have until July 10th to give us your comments, and we've already had to start, because we've had multiple extensions, we've already started the technical studies on this. Our target is to have our environmental document done in December of this year. So that's when you're going to have another opportunity to comment. It'll be a greater opportunity because we'll have a document that will actually document exactly what we think are the potential impacts related to this project. So you'll be able to read the document, you'll be able to read our technical studies, and at that point, you'll be able to comment on what we've analyzed. And we will be holding our own Caltrans-hosted public meetings also in December. That's our current target. Early next year, after we listen and compile all of the public comments, we're going to decide which one of these construction staging options are we going to go with. And that's not going to be until spring of 2024. It's going to take us a while. We're expecting a lot of comments. We've gotten about 80 comments so far during scoping. I expect that number to double once we actually have the document out. So our target is for spring 2024. We're going to decide which construction staging option we're going to go with. And I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. Next slide, please. And again, very crucial. So we started our commenting period April 13th, and it has been extended now to July 10th. Some of the takeaways that I would just like to mention is, during this commenting period and the close of the commenting period on July 10th, that doesn't shut the window. We're still listening. As Jason mentioned and as Osama had mentioned, we really want to hear from the community, and we are already going through those comments, and we have heard from the community. And part of that is, putting together the, Community Advisory Committee. We will be doing that. As Jason mentioned earlier, this is the framework, but we really want to hear from you. So a few ways that you can comment is by mail. Please send your comments directly to Jason or email them. There's the email address up there. And then what's really been helpful is this virtual meeting room. This virtual meeting room not only gives you the opportunity to see the virtual presentation that we did online, but it also gives you the ability to look at the boards that were presented in the in-person meeting. So please utilize that resource. Please know that we're here tonight. Again, we are very thankful to be able to come in front of you. Thank you, Ray, for the invite. Thank you for accommodating us this evening. But the big goal here is to hear from the community, hear from you. Next slide. With that, we're going to open it up to questions, and we'll go from there. I appreciate it.
Thank you all for being here. We really appreciate the presentation, appreciate the information, and I'm sure we'll have a few comments here to kind of people to wrap their minds around. I see Chris's hand up, so I would imagine Chris is going to say something. I see Dan and Gwen out here, so I'm going to go ahead and take being president. I'm just going to kind of start it off, if you don't mind, and then we'll go along around the table. Really happy to hear that there'll be a community advisory committee set up. That's really helpful. I do have a question as to when that will be in place, because I truly believe that even as we move along, even from this day moving forward, there's a place for the community to get involved. They become more informed to inform the rest of the community, but it also allows the community to be able to give you the feedback that I'm hearing that you would like. So love to be able to hear if you have a kind of a target date as to when this is going to happen. And I do have another question that I'd like you to answer, and that is for the EIR, we are also going to have a 90-day public comment period on that also, right? Because, again, for neighborhood councils, we need the time to process it, take it through our committee, and then bring it back to the full board to vote, and then, present the findings to you all. So, again, the 90-day period is vital for neighborhood councils. That's how we do our work. It's unfortunate that it takes so long. We hear it all the time from different city departments. But that's how we get our work done. I mean, we have to abide by Brown Act rules, and no different than you all. So I'm sure you realize that sometimes Brown Act, although very good in helping communities see the work being done, but it also increases the time period for us to be able to do it efficiently. So I'm really like to hear what your thoughts are about any other public comment processes that we, there's a commitment that it'll be for 90 days. I also want to say that I feel very thankful that you're listening, because I think the 90-day period that you have extended it to, the full 90-day period, the original scoping, I think that's a signal that you're listening to the community, hearing that you're going to have the advisory committee, another signal that you're listening to the community. And I think, and I've mentioned this before, I think I mentioned this in Wilmington, the harbor community is an engaged community, and we listen and we give feedback. Everyone around the table, everyone in our community, constituent communities, really get involved in one manner or another. So we're really thankful that you're here so that you can listen to what we have to say. So you can go ahead and answer those two questions, and then we'll move on to Chris, Dan, and then Gwen.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. President. The first question is when we're going to form the Community Advisory Committee. Actually, we are working on it as we speak, so we're going to be asking you to nominate one representative for this particular neighborhood council, and also we're going to ask you to have one alternate, because we have about more than 20 interested groups, so we try to to have one rep from each group, along with one alternate in case the main rep isn't able to attend. So hopefully we are shooting towards the end of this month. Hopefully we could have this Community Advisor Committee ready either the end of this month or early July. So hopefully we will have this committee set up and ready to go. Regarding the 90 days notice, this is something, or 90 days comments period, this is something important. We will look into it. So we'd like to accommodate, of course, the community's requests. So this is something we'll take it seriously, and we will consider it very seriously.
So. Okay. Chris?
Thank you. You did a good job in actually kind of taking some of the steam out of the more, why not replace the bridge kind of questions. A lot of this I'm going to actually, my notes I'm going to save for these later rounds. But I just wanted to sort of kick it off with a couple of suggestions or observations. So I wrote 20 notes. How early, or how long ago was the need for this repair identified, and at what point was the decision made to proceed with the replacement is kind of my main question. And then my suggestion would be is that as this is a, to use the arterial analogy, this is a kind of carotid artery of the San Pedro Bay complex. I believe that there should be essentially a regional transportation infrastructure plan that incorporates the new bridge in Long Beach, this bridge's maintenance, the surface streets, and all of it. And we're continually, availed with the stories of how 40% of our country's economy runs through this neighborhood. And I would think and hope that there would be state and federal resources, especially with the infrastructure bill, to update, simply maintain, honestly, in terms of the surface streets, and modernize the entire area. And so I know you gentlemen in particular, your focus is this project, but if and when you speak to your sort of strategic planning people, let them know that, this entire area, like from Torrance to Long Beach and north, needs a sort of holistic approach to goods movement involving, transition to on-dock rail and all that stuff that's happening in the ports, but a multi-agency, multi-disciplinary, multi-municipal approach to this sort of thing, because the outward appearance is that, well, you're fixing the bridge. People in this community are pretty familiar with, goods movement, transportation. So I think that you should be ready and willing to kind of go into the weeds to kind of demonstrate to them that you have a big picture of you about this whole thing.
Actually, to answer, thank you very much for the questions. To answer the first part of the question, basically, when did we plan to do this work? How we maintain bridges is we have regular, what we call it, inspections for the bridges. And we have a system to grade the bridge. We have 3 grades of the bridge conditions. It's good, fair, and poor. So the state has a goal as per Senate Bill SB1 of 2017 is to have 98.5% of the entire bridge decks in the state to be at fair or good condition. So basically, this bridge was in a fair condition until earlier of last year when it dropped from fair to poor. Then it triggered the need to take it to act. So basically, that coincides with the passing of the IJA, which is the Infrastructure and Job Act, the federal. So basically, it allows us to invest that big amount of money to fix the bridge deck, because this bridge is pretty big. So by fixing this bridge deck, we'll be able to meet the 10 years goals, the 10 years goal of 98.5% of the bridge decks in the state of California to be at fair or good condition. So basically, we weren't planning it for a long time. No, we just discovered or the bridge rating got dropped like last year in 2022, an aerial part of 2022. This is why we had to rush and create what we call it the PIR, which is Project Initiation Report, to make it eligible for funding. And then we got it amended into the SHOP, which is the State Highway Operation and Protection Program. Basically, it got programmed in last January, which is what? It's like 5 months ago. So it was really quick. We were able to find the money, $700 million plus will be invested in this project. So we didn't want to miss that opportunity to get such important bridge fixed. So basically, what you're talking about, the goods movement, it's a little bit separate from the SHOP. The SHOP, basically, that the Caltrans controls. It doesn't allow for capacity enhancement. It has a certain portion towards mobility, but the major function, it's fix it first. So basically, to fix the existing infrastructure, to bring it up to the standards that it should be at.
Thank you.
Dan.
See, folks, infrastructure is fascinating. This is great stuff. So the emergency nature of this is driving the project, and the concerns that Chris has eloquently expressed, and which I side with him on completely, is part of what we need to be working on as a long-term project for the region. I did want to say, based on our brief view of your detour map, I think I'm pleased that you are sparing Wilmington as much as possible, at least, on those east-west thoroughfares through their PCH and Anaheim. And that we're all from San Pedro, and we're number one, yay! But we know the burdens that Wilmington has borne for decades, revolving around everything involved at the port and transportation and infrastructure. And I'm pleased to see that, based on your detour map, they are at least on your radar. Thank you.
Gwen.
In order to better provide questions and comments and feedback for this, for the upcoming EIR, I'm wondering if the list of entities in partnership with Caltrans can be provided as a list so that we know who's involved, such as the South Coast AQMD, what pollution, what analysis is being done of the current volumes of traffic, whether it's passenger cars, how much is passenger cars during any particular time, and the rest of it. That would be of great benefit to know what it is currently. We do have bottlenecks of trucks at certain times and that kind of thing. It would be very great to have some of that preliminary stuff to help better provide you questions. So in that, if you could provide a list, and then on top of that, you are redirecting traffic, and I see, loops and that kind of thing. But this also impacts the 710, the 605, the 91, the 105. They are already heavily impacted. And I also want to know if the port and the trucking industry and the rail industry is being collaborated with in order to come up with possibly some schedules in order to streamline traffic and stop bottlenecks, since there is not going to be a widening or expansioning of this bridge.
Okay. To answer your first part, basically, we're going to have a list of, we're going to have at least two committees. One is Community Advisory Committee, and then technical, CAC, we call it CAC, CAC, Community Advisory Committee, and then also we are working on forming a TAC, which is Technical Advisory Committee. Technical Advisory Committee, we're going to bring in the ports, Port of LA, Port of Long Beach, City of LA, also San Pedro, and also South Bay COG, and also Gateway City COG, Council of Governments. They're going to come sit with us on the table, and we're going to discuss the technical aspects of the project. And whatever we agree on, we're going to also present it to the Community Advisory Committee to seek the committee members' opinion. So this is the first part. The second part about the air quality, we are conducting an air quality study, but before that, actually it's going to be work in progress. We are working now on doing the traffic study. The traffic study basically starts with traffic counts, and then they go through modeling to tell us like the volumes that's going to be using particular routes as part of the detour. And based on that, we may decide to even expand the detour map. And also, the outcome of that particular traffic study not only will tell us what kind of detours we should be using, it's also going to help us determining the impacts of this project during construction or the air quality. And also, we will be discussing the noise impacts as well. So you got air quality and noise. These studies will be based on the outcome of the traffic study, and all this information, you're going to find it in the draft environmental document when it gets circulated, hopefully, towards the end of this year.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the John DeMega? Go ahead.
Yeah, we have, from the beginning, we had ferries, very few people. Then we went up to the bridge. Now we're up to 53,000 cars going on the bridge. Future is what after this step? We're not doing anything to help the traffic in the harbor at all. The traffic is not, this is not going to help any of the traffic at all in the harbor. Nothing. You're fixing the deck. That's all you're doing is fixing the deck. Okay? So, I never heard what the future is in the port and how many more people after this 53,000 we have now in the next 10 years when you say, well, we have to combine it under this 10-year deal to make it the bridge okay. It's still, the bridge is in poor condition. The deck isn't going to make that big a difference. The width of the bridge, we got rid of the Desmond Bridge, we got rid of the Ford Bridge, and this is going to be the lousiest bridge in this whole complex here. We're not doing anything. We're not fixing anything. We're not fixing the problem. We're not fixing the problem of this port expanding. The rails, like Chris said, the rails are happening. A lot of things happening. Do you have an outlook on what the future is and where this bridge stands in the future? Because I don't think we're there. Thank you.
Yeah, actually, the integrity of the bridge gets evaluated on a regular basis, at least once every 2 years. So basically, the main structure of the bridge is in a pretty solid condition. Just all what we need to do is just change the deck. Once the deck is replaced, you're going to have a much, much better bridge. And also, when if we try to replace a bridge like this, we are talking about $1.5 billion or $2 billion in today's dollars. General Desmond, by the way, it happens to be managed in my office, and the cost so far is about $1.7 billion. So again, it's $1,700 million price tag. And at the time of planning that bridge, it was 2012, like 11 years ago. Imagine now, by the time we go to construction, if we're going to replace the bridge, if it was even needed to be replaced. So, as we could see right now, just replace the bridge deck. It's going to be in a good working condition. It's going to take us at least another 60 to 75 years from now. So,
one more question. After the last meeting, the bridge shut down because there was an accident on the bridge the day after this last meeting. This isn't going to change anything. Okay? The only other suggestion I have is to avert the truckers altogether during this construction and give them a fast pass somewhere else. Because if you've got one lane going on each side of this bridge and you have a trucker that stalls or whatever, you're there for hours and hours and hours. So if you can get a fast pass to go around that bridge so you don't have the truck drivers while you're doing the construction on the bridge, because that's going to mess it up. It's going to bog it down every time. So I think you need a fast pass to go around there to get to the 110 freeway or opposite. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Jun Kang. I'm the acting Assistant Division Chief at Caltrans District 7. I just want to understand that this team is to concentrate on the deck replacement, and we are not talking about long term. I do sincerely appreciate your comments on what is the future in this area, but this team is not ready to answer those questions. So just wanted to let you know, if we do not fix this bridge, then we will have to continually repair the deck small by small, which means closures daily, and we just cannot do that. So that's why we're repairing this bridge. And this is a necessary evil that we have to choose. I do understand it's going to impact the community, and that's why we are here to hear from you to lessen that pain. But this team would not have the answer for the long-term goal around the area. The bridge is in a sound condition. Actually, I was structures representative on that bridge when they retrofitted about 20 years ago. So I'm very familiar with that bridge, a beautiful bridge. The structural integrity is fine. Just the deck is just getting really badly damaged, and we need to repair that completely rather than reacting to the damage that occur every day. So I just wanted to tell you that, and this team will be able to answer anything that's related to the rehab of the deck, but not for the long term. Now, as far as community and TAC is concerned, we are doing everything that we can to kick off the first meeting within June. If it doesn't happen in June, as early, no later than before the comment period ends on July 10th. So right now, consultant is working very hard to identify the groups. We currently identified 22 groups. We are verifying the name and the representative of those groups. And that the community advisory group is going to interact with a technical advisory group. And we are also considering forming another policy advisory group on top of that involves elected officials. So we are taking this rehab very seriously, and the communication will be there. The interaction between these committees will happen. So all these questions you have, we may be able to answer it better once that gets kickstarted. Just be patient with us. But for this team, we are concentrating on the rehabbing the bridge deck at this point. Thank you.
Thank you. Melanie and then Vic. Oh.
So with your presentation, it's my understanding that did you ever look at the idea of just replacing the bridge like they did the other bridge in Long Beach, just to make it easier? Because that transition seemed to work fine for traffic, because this is going to be a traffic nightmare. It really is. So have they considered just replacing the bridge? Because it needs a lot of repair from what you just presented. It sounds like cost-efficient wise and long-term wise, it might be better just to build a brand new bridge.
Well, the brand new bridge, as I mentioned, in today's dollars, probably it's at least it's about close to $2 billion in today's dollars. So we don't really have that kind of money, and we don't really usually replace the bridges, because it's more convenient to to do a minor repair to them. So
the bridge replacement is not on the table, and it needs to be triggered in a certain way. For example, structure is such a state that repairing does not make sense. It's cheaper to replace. This bridge, however, is in a pristine condition. We have a maintenance crew coming from one end to the other. That's what they do all year. Start from one end and start maintaining the bridge or painting the bridge, do the repairs, and after they're done, they come right back a few years later and start that again. So the bridge structure itself is in a pristine condition. There's no reason for us to replace it. Again, if it does, money is not an issue. If we need to replace it, if it's $3 billion, $4 billion, we will have to replace it. But at this stage, we just don't have the need for replacing this bridge.
Would you start adding not only the detour routes, but the surface street closures? A couple of them are very obvious. Other ones may not be, to the maps that you distribute. And second thing is, you mentioned that you had, I believe, 22 different groups. The obvious ones for us are on this side of the bridge, San Pedro, Wilmington, and so on. But this is going to impact the other side of the bridge, Terminal Island, Long Beach. Are those part of the groups that you are working with as well?
Yes. Yes.
Cynthia.
Microphone. Okay, can you tell me if the policy group includes the state and the city and the federal?
Not the federal, but, we have a congresswoman and the state senate. All those policy elected officials will be in that group. So we are thinking actually to merging tech and the policy group together for the efficiency, but we are still looking into it, very preliminary at this point. But we are definitely want to kick off community advisory group as soon as possible. So in order for us to hold a meeting within this month, we have to send out invitation no later than next week, end of the next week. So that's what we are shooting for. And, again, there are a lot of interested parties here, especially elected officials has been knocking on our doors and say, hey, come, let us know what you're doing. So we've been working with the mayor's office, and everyone who's like to hear from us. And they've been helping us actually form this community advisory group, because the mayor's office has been working with the community in the South Bay, and there's a specific individual who's been working here and know the contact. So we've been working with her as well.
Okay, and my second question is regarding the resurfacing. How long was it supposed to last? Did you say 10 or 20 years?
Which resurfacing?
Of the bridge?
Oh, the bridge. So this lasted 60 years. So,
but we have more traffic and we have heavier trucks, so that makes a big difference, right?
Correct. The concrete has to be cured 28 days without disturbing in order to get a full strength.
No earthquakes.
Right. Or traffic. So any new construction of the bridge, we make sure that bridge deck or any structure gets cured in 28 days.
It's like a cake rising,
Right, exactly. So, but in this case, we are having stagey construction, right? So we need to be very, be aware that of those construction and how we're going to stage it, how we're going to merge the two together. So there are a lot of discussions right now that's happening. We are expecting this deck to perform as well or even better.
Great.
The materials got better. There is the steel girders you see at the bottom. There's no positive connection right now to the concrete deck. Concrete deck is just barely sitting on those. But the new engineering basically shows that if we connect them positively with, let's say, stud welded onto the girders, then it actually strengthened the bridge a lot more. So there are many things that we are looking into to improve structural integrity and so that it'll last longer.
And how long? I mean, how big of an earthquake it can tolerate? Maybe.
I can't tell you at this point. That was retrofitted with the entire structure was reinforced a few years ago, 20 years ago or so. And I remember adding a lot of gusset plates, thousands of gusset plates between the members of the the main members to strengthen the bridge. So we've done a lot to make sure that this bridge would hold onto the earthquake loads that's going to come.
Very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah.
I do not believe we have any more around the table. I want to give our audience an opportunity to make any comments or ask questions. Sergio, I don't know if you're getting ready to say something.
Well, good evening, everyone. Sergio Carrillo with the Office of Councilmember Tim McCosker. Just want to answer a couple of things that were not maybe fully answered there. But before I do that, I do want to just say that it's been a pleasure working with the team. We obviously, as many of you had some concerns early on, we still have some concerns, and we will obviously have many concerns throughout this project. But we wrote a letter, we've talked with them. The council member has met with the director of Caltrans District 7 herself. We are having some great conversations, and so we look forward to working with the project, and we're thankful for the team and working with us. I mean, the president mentioned the two big things early on, extending the comment period, creating this community advisory councils, and so we're very appreciative to the team for all of that. Chris, I wanted to mention that we do have a regional transportation plan. It's authored by SCAG, the Southern California Association of Governments, which represents, I believe, something like 8 counties. And they're the official regional planning authority in the state of California for this part of Los Angeles. So we can bring SCAG to do a presentation on the regional transportation plan, and it does look at many of the things that you mentioned. Mobility of goods on the rail, on trucks, and what have you. So we do have that, and we can arrange, if you wish in the future, to have a presentation from SCAG on the regional transportation plan, because it does exist.
And I think we'd appreciate that, and we can discuss it in the executive when we set the agenda, but I think it's the type of thing, given what's happened over the last few years, it would be reassuring and informative to the stakeholders if they had a sense of what the big picture was.
And the last thing I want to mention is when Gerald Desmond was redone or replaced, it also was not necessarily replaced because of the structure necessarily, but the height. The big ships couldn't go under. And so it was a huge deterrent to commerce. And so the bridge needed to be replaced in order for the port to access ships. Our bridge on our side is high enough, at this point at least. 10 years from now, we don't know what kind of ships we may have, but for now at least it is. We in the council office, although we know it's going to be a very painful transition and project, but we also understand it's very important. It needs to happen. We need to replace that deck. If we don't replace the deck, then everything we're talking about, these nightmares, will become a permanent nightmare because the bridge will be fully closed. We couldn't do anything with it. And so in order to continue to move commerce, we need to replace that deck. It has to happen. And so we are very thankful, at least to Caltrans now, and we look forward to working with them through the TAC and the CAC and the whatever groups we're going to call them. But we're here to listen to you, and we're here to address any things you may have. Ray has my phone number. Thomas has my phone number. Feel free to call me at whenever. We are here to be your voice. We are committed to meeting with Caltrans very periodically, and so we can bring up any issues you may have.
Okay. Anyone else out in the audience? No? I don't see any other hands. I'd like to...
Oh, and by the way, we're working very closely with the mayor's office. The mayor's office actually coordinating some meetings this week, so we want to thank you very much for the mayor's office.
Good. Thank you. I'm going to refer back. I'm going to make a comment, given what I heard. And so I'm going to base this on my many years working in government. I want to reflect the fact that one of the things that we have always kept in mind in the department that I worked for during the time that I was with the county it's a level of transparency. And transparency is very important to this whole community because it spurs on more community engagement and involvement. Very happy to hear that we're going to get the Community Advisory Committee. I think the other two levels of advisory committees, the TAC and the PAC, policy, I think is also a very important aspect of understanding the piece out there. I want to highlight the fact that with these three different levels of organizations that are going to be created, I want to make sure that there is clear understanding that transparency, as we have tried to gain by asking for a community advisory committee, we want to make sure that there is still that transparency that goes along between the various groups. Neighborhood councils, community advisory groups of different sorts and things like that sometimes kind of squint and shade and everything else, because sometimes we even internally with our stakeholder groups have a hard time getting our community voice heard so that it's reflected on some of the work that is being done. Glad to say that we have a very responsive mayor's office, a very responsive CD15 office, the 1-5 office. And I want to continue to be able to feel comfortable that there are pieces that will be said in one group that won't be said in another, because then that creates the opportunity for people to doubt. And that's the last thing we need in a project this big, especially the community, as I have said so many times, as involved as this community. And when I say this community, I'm talking about the harbor community. We support our fellow community members in Wilmington, Harbor City, and the 3 neighborhood councils in San Pedro. Not to mention the fact that we also know that it will affect our neighboring communities in Harbor, Gateway South and North and Watts and so on as we move back and forth down this corridor. So I really would hope that there is thought that when you have these 3 committees, it could work very positively, but my fear is it's going to have to work hard to make sure that we're all engaged and all part of the decision-making process. When it comes to what happens to this bridge, it's important to all of us who are going to live and have to live with the results. Because unfortunately, sometimes we have individuals who can make decisions for this community, but they live someplace else. And we want to make sure that they understand just how committed we are around this table. So I just want to thank you for taking our comments about the 90 days, taking our comments about the advisory groups. I'm feeling very energized that you're even looking at it at other levels, but very, very hopeful that all these groups are going to be able to communicate with each other, because that's how we that have to live with the final product is going to have a greater understanding. And as I have, found out, again, with my many years working community in the county, it's not just the fact that we are able to communicate with you. It's an opportunity for you all to communicate with us so that we have a greater understanding of just what the job is. And you guys, even today, have actually helped us understand what the job is by some of the suggestions that came out and why they're not, some of these things are not being considered. That's really important. So I want to thank you all for being here, and hopefully we're going to be hearing much more as we go forward, because we want to hear and we want to participate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for your comments. One of the instruction we gave to our consultant who's putting together this engagement plan is interface structure. They have to come up with how these groups will communicate with each other.
And work together, if I could say?
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So if we don't do that, then that doesn't work.
Right.
So I do understand your concern. However, we want to make just assure you that the communication between these and collaboration between these groups are going to make this project break or make it. So we do understand. So it is going to be a collaborative environment. Technical advisory group is going to provide a community advisory group of what their technical, let's say, constraints are, so that we can educate and also hear out in the creative maybe thinking. So definitely, these groups will not be exclusive groups. They will have to work together. So that's a plan that we're putting together right now.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Just quick.
We're going to take maybe
Just a quickie.
one last comment, and then we'll close off.
I just have one thing I want to say about this bridge. Can we change the color of that green into something else?
No. that is absolute no.
That's pretty transparent. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Thank you very much for putting up with our questions and concerns and things like that. I'm sure you're going to be hearing probably a lot more as we go along. So thank you for being out here. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.
Oh, and you're all welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting, too, by the way. You don't have to leave.
It just gets better from here.
If I can we take like maybe a 5-minute break just so that we could?
It is 7:30 right now, so we'll come back at 7:35.
5-minute break.
Yeah, I like that. What are these things? There was 3 right there when we sat down. I took 1, 2, and then I gave anything to Adam.
Can we get pillows for these chicks?
Yeah. Okay, we're going to go ahead and start the meeting all over again. It's 7:38, and we have a few things on our agenda, so we're going to have to be really careful or very conscious about our time, so we're going to have to make sure that we really take the time. Now, was this submitted earlier? Okay. So let's make sure that we are very concise with our questions and make sure that the questions are important. What I want to make sure I tell you all, the stuff that was identified here today, that the questions that were asked, make sure they get in writing so they can be, and submit them so that they're not forgotten. We don't want to rely on someone else to take it down for us. So for your questions, make sure you write them and submit them so they're not forgotten. So, okay, we're going to move on quickly to our homeless liaison report. An individual by the name of Lori Jacobs will be presenting that to us. Lori, we're already
Thank you. I'm already here. I'm trying to be ready and to go.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Okay. So first of all, I just need to say congratulations to Dan and thank you. And it's been an honor to watch you and have you mentor us. You are so valuable to our community. So hopefully most of you already read the packet and read this report, so I don't need to go over everything. One thing that came up after I did this report is that the 2023 homeless count numbers are supposed to be publicized on June 29th. I don't know how soon they'll have the breakdown by area, but as soon as I do have that report, I'm hoping I'll be able to include that in the July report. The CD15 working group on homelessness will be dark in July. They'll be back in August. Okay, so in my report, I cover what we talked about at the working group. One of them is on safe parking. I've talked about that before. There's some updates here. It's still a viable and important tool for people who are trying to transition to find housing. It's a great step. So read that. And by the way, if you ever have any questions, I'll add this from the future. My email address is pedrolori@yahoo.com. So if you have questions, please reach out to me. I wanted to talk a little bit about Inside Safe because it's really important. Mayor Bass put this initiative out, and our council member in the 1-5 has been fighting very hard to get this program out in our area, and he was successful in introducing this at the Lomita McCoy encampment, which is probably the longest standing encampment in the 1-5 for many, many years, with at times a couple of hundred people experiencing homelessness. It was a wonderful collaborative effort on May 31st and June 1st. And over those 2 days, 62 people were moved off of the street and into local motels. Actually, a few of them went into a bridge home. These motels will have programs that are very similar to Project Room Key, which was introduced during COVID. And they'll have full case management. If you read my report, it has all the details on this. They also covered the 5 Points encampment and cleaned that out completely. So this is really important, that how hard that we're working with the mayor's office and with the council district. There's still more work to be done. Not everybody accepted services. There was about 8 tents, I believe, left, and we're going to keep engaging on those. And so that's mainly what I'm going to cover on the report today, since I'm being sped up. And I know that Jocelyn's here, and she can talk about some of the new things that Mayor Bass is doing with the White House to tackle homelessness. Is that quick enough?
Thank you, Lori. Appreciate it. So we'll take public comment. Any questions around the table? I see Chris's hand up.
Just real quickly, and this is based on an observation, a conversation I had earlier. As some of these encampments, supportive housing or other programs, I would imagine that there would be sort of possibly a general improvement in maybe in particular areas. But what are the challenges that remain, or how does the landscape change when the people that you have left are the ones who are resistant to accept help?
So just like getting sober or anything else, people have to hit a certain bottom before they're willing to really accept, and they have to have earned the trust. It's important to keep engaging those 8 people, because as long as those tents are there, it still becomes sort of an attraction for newly homeless people, if that's what you're speaking to. A lot of these people all know each other, so when they see their neighbors who were in tents now improving, and by the way, they're just moved into motels. This is a one step right now towards housing or permanent supportive housing, something else. But they just never give up. That's the motto of the service providers. They just never give up.
Thank you.
Gwen?
Sorry. So the recently Venice, there was a lot of news about Venice being cleaned up and services coming in for Venice, and there's also word that Harbor City, there's a whole RV area that's being focused on. I'm going to reach out to public safety and a few other representatives here, but Westmont, at the last CDFL homelessness meeting, was Westmont mentioned, or was that on the radar? I'm trying to remember, because I've gotten 2 businesses up there who are reaching out to the SLOs and a few other people.
Okay, there's a group that meets regularly. There's about 14 to 16 RVs that have been regularly parked up there. The Spa 8 Care Coordination, led by Harbor Interfaith. They work with Department of Mental Health and other service providers. They have certain days they go out there. They provide mental health work, career, job information, help them get the documents they need, whatever's needed. So yes, they are called on a weekly basis.
Any other questions around the table? I see no hands. Out in the audience, I see no hands. Lori, thank you very much. I appreciate your work. So that brings us to Agenda item number 6, that's our reports from elected governmental public safety representatives. I see the mayor's office here, so nice to have you here, Jocelyn.
Good evening, board members. Hello, everyone. Happy to be here with you all again. So I'll get right to it. So all these items you can also view on my monthly report, which I did send out at the beginning of this month. So with Inside Safe, so far we have been able to house over 1,200 individuals. On Friday, May 26th, the mayor did sign the city budget after it was reviewed by the Budget, Finance, and Innovation Committee and passed through City Council. So just a short recap on that. It does include a $1.3 billion investment to address the homelessness and housing crisis in our city, and $250 million of that will go towards Inside Safe. Also, the mayor was able to secure a historic agreement with the White House to tackle homelessness. So on May 18th, Los Angeles was one of 5 cities across the U.S. that was chosen to be a part of this partnership with the White House. So the White House has put together this initiative called All Inside, which sounds very familiar, and they have a goal to decrease the homelessness by 25% across the U.S. by 2025. So by being part of this initiative with the White House, it will include fast-tracking processes to bring people inside, addressing documentation requirements and other red tape that prevent people from being housed quickly, ensuring people can use existing resources like emergency housing vouchers, creating more regulatory flexibility such as support for expediting federal reimbursements, and supporting local efforts to advance coordination with state and local agencies such as the Local Transit Authority and Public Housing Authorities. Also, last week, Mayor Karen Bass was named chair of the United States Conference of Mayors Task Force on Homelessness. So this task force is designed to address individual issues requiring the immediate attention of a select group of mayors in the conference. I also just wanted to highlight from my monthly report, the My Safe LA is up and running again. It is still only available for iPhones, but for those of you that don't know, this is an app that you can download on your iPhone and report illegal firework activity. And just to note, it's not to receive services. It's more for data collection for our fire department so that we can see where these activities are taking place and make sure that we are taking that data to, of course, take into consideration how funds are allocated. And that's all for me, unless there's any questions.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Okay, I see some hands. Let's start with Craig, Gwen, and then John DeMaglio.
Hi, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked Christian, which is, what plan does the city have to maintain the bike lanes?
Yes, so that is part of, and I left my notes, so let me go grab it. So that was part of the budget that was passed by the mayor. So for road maintenance, that does include a budget of $99,000 specifically for road maintenance, and also over $41,000 for street damage restoration. So that money would be meant to address those concerns.
My concern is, what plan do you have? Not, we have money set aside, and it may or may not get spent, because I know how the city spends its money. So the thing is every time I ask somebody, they never give me an answer. We're going to clean up North Gaffey because it's full of sand. It's been like that for months. We're going to, we don't know what this is and what that is. I look on the city sites, there's no information. I mean, the city has a definite plan to help transition people to riding bicycles. They don't have a plan. They've put our roads on diets to make bike lanes, which they have not maintained. So my question is, where is the plan to maintain these?
Yeah, so a lot of those issues are sometimes take long to address because of funding. So now that we have the budget in place, it's really up to the council district and, of course, the mayor's office working together with the council district to make sure that we're putting a plan together for their specific council district needs. So I think now that the budget has passed, it's really about keeping that communication going with your council district and, of course, the mayor's office as well, but primarily the council district to make sure that they are aware of where these issues are so they can know how to use the funding.
Just so when you talk to the mayor, tell her all of them. It's not just this council district. It's not just CD15. Look at the accidents that are happening downtown where bike riders are getting killed. 15 bike riders got killed last year.
Thank you, Craig. We're going to move on to the next. Gwen? You're welcome.
Thank you, Jocelyn. I'm glad to see that Mayor Bass has appointed Stacey Daines for GM. It's been a long time coming, and we really desperately need it. With that, and the increase in animal services budget, but is there still time to discuss the increase in that? There have been questions regarding if it's enough to possibly restaff to numbers that were earlier than the pandemic. The pandemic actually really...
You're talking specifically hiring?
Hiring, yes.
Yes. So hiring is the primary focus one of the primary focuses of our office when it comes to budget. And that's for all departments across. Hiring more in the personnel department and public safety, just because we know that there are thousands of vacancies within the city, and that's really the barrier that comes when, there's a delay in services, is that we just don't have enough staff.
Well,
so that
I'm sorry. Well, I had a whole bunch of questions regarding the animal services. So I'm glad that you've talked about the 4th of July fireworks. I'm wondering if, because the GM isn't going to start until after the fireworks are one of the greatest impacts on animal services. There's a huge influx. I don't know if maybe the mayor's office can look at a campaign, getting it out on the news to be attentive not to do it. As well as our council member Tim McOsker just went over to Harbor Animal Services and did a tour, but it's in crisis mode. Can the mayor's office also create some kind of information for getting the adoptions out, getting people in, doing volunteership, because that has gone down. And really honestly, at this point, it's emergency. They're completely busting at the seams over there. So anything that the mayor's office can do to get it out on the news and all of these needs, that would be really great. We appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's definitely something I can bring up to our office and check in with the Animal Service Department to see if they have anything in place already. And that's definitely information that I can share with everyone in this group.
Thank you. John?
Yeah, I just wanted to say, Mayor Bass's office has done so much that I've ever seen any mayor do in a long time. She's a leader, I'd imagine, in the community and throughout the United States in what she's done for the homeless. And I've heard on the news that the population of homeless has gone down. Do you have the numbers of how far it's gone down?
No, but I imagine we would have that data once the homeless count report is out. Yeah. Thank you for that.
Any other questions around the table? No hands. On the audience, any questions for the mayor's rep? I see no hands. Jocelyn, thank you very much for being here. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I believe that puts us with Senior Lead Officer Nua.
Hi, good evening, everyone from the Northwest San Pedro Neighborhood Council. My name is Junior Nua. I'm the Senior Lead Officer for currently acting as Harbor Gateway. Jason Brewer gives us his regrets for not being able to be here tonight. I'll give his report for tonight. So in terms of crime, currently as it stands compared to last year in May, Northwest San Pedro has experienced a reduction in total Part 1 crime, about 26% in all categories. This is robbery, aggravated assault, grand theft auto, burglary, theft from motor vehicle, and theft. What we have seen is an slight increase from last year in May of 18%, and the burglaries consist of both commercial and residential properties. In terms of, let's see, 2023, total, this is not, okay, so there's a bottom grid, as I gave to you guys the basic car map that indicates that there's a total decrease in 17.6% from May of 2022 to this year in May of 2023. The report for the overall Northwest San Pedro area for the month of May will be ready prior to the next Community Police Advisory Board, which is on June 22nd. So the next meeting for our Community Police Advisory Board is going to be June 22nd, Thursday at Harbor Division. Jason Brewer has spent a lot of his time trying to work some of these homeless encampment issues. As you mentioned, at Westmont, he assisted Care Plus as well as the care cleanups, supporting them. And he's also, our first effort in the homeless encampments are obviously outreach, right? So we're providing them with pamphlets. We're trying to encourage them to make notification, whether it's to Harbor Interfaith or any of our community service providers, to allow them to seek housing and any other resources, whether it's substance abuse, mental health, and things like that. So on top of that, we still conduct our enforcement. Some of the things that you guys may have heard of is blocking the sidewalk, 4118. We do issue those citations. Those citations are merely an infraction to encourage them to leave these special zones, whether it be the school, the library, parks, and things like that. So that will continue. So moving forward towards fireworks, this month we are pushing out 3 dates of enforcement for fireworks, which includes outreach. So we have locations, certain residents that typically or chronically have been reported in the past that we've identified, and we partner with the city attorney's office, and we basically provide these residents with a notice, a warning notice that, hey, your address has been identified as a location for chronic violations of fireworks. We would submit those letters to these homes as a friendly reminder, hey, we may be in the area, we may catch you. You could receive a stiff fine, penalty, and so forth. But we are, Captain McGuire did push out a PSA this past week for firework prevention. And we also have a new senior lead officer position open. As you know, Northwest San Pedro has had an acting senior lead officer for many years now. So they just advertised for a permanent SLO position. Both Central San Pedro and Northwest San Pedro have acting senior lead officers. So it's going to be one of those things where perhaps the neighborhood council can encourage the captain, where we place the new senior lead officer with Melanie's help at the Community Police Advisory Board. As for myself, I could, if I end up coming back as a permanent SLO, doing traditional SLO things, I will probably end up in Central San Pedro. So my guess, the new SLO should be in Northwest San Pedro. And that would probably be my encouragement to Sergeant Manlove as well as to the captain, that your community needs a permanent SLO. And that's pretty much my report. Anybody have questions?
Thank you, Officer Noah. We have some hands around the table. We'll start with Gwen, and then Kelly, and then, did I see your hand? Go ahead.
Thank you, Officer Newland. So I'm wondering if you might be able to relay. I have a couple of people who I've already given Jason's information to. They are actually businesses up there. They're really interested in interacting and providing any information that they can and be as supportive as possible in this and be interactive. I've also told them, the CPAB meeting is a wonderful place to show up. So, but if possibly the businesses up there, maybe there can be the same interaction with the businesses.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely. Kelly?
I just read about a new tool being used to stop the catalytic converter thefts. Is there going to be stations where people can go have those put on their cars?
No, and that's a great point. I mean, that's something that any neighborhood council can push with this. It takes a lot of man hours, especially for the police. We would partner with Port Police as well as a tow company like 7th Street Tow. We would, I know we did maybe a year ago, we had a couple that we'd done to basically etch the catalytic converters. In that case, this new bill that just got passed in regards to possession and the possessor having proof, well, if there's an etched identification, an owner-applied identification, and they can't prove that they know what the number is, then highly likely they would be in violation of this law. So it's something that we're totally open to, and I think it's something just meeting with your SLO and say, hey, this is what we want. We have Peck Park that probably will support us for space, and we just got to get all the players involved, tow as well as law enforcement.
Thank you.
And I'll let Officer Brewer know, too.
Thanks, Junior. I was just wondering if there was any kind of analysis or crunching of the numbers. It's a pretty significant decrease in overall crime. Are there seasonal variations, or is there any sort of sense of why we're seeing this? Is it like a predictable kind of dip?
No, I think so these are month-to-month analysis, or the data. So it's May of last year. It's only a 30-day snapshot of each month in May from last year and this year. The better picture will be out right before CPAB is when they put together the year-to-date analysis compared for the whole year. So it's more accurate. I didn't want to bring the one we have because it's from April. So, but I did take a look at it. For Northwest San Pedro, I can say some of the crimes are trending down. Numbers are still up in Northwest San Pedro in regards to some property crime. But we're seeing that throughout all of Harbor area when it comes down to burglary, theft from motor vehicle, grand theft auto. One thing we did have that impacted a lot of the assault crimes, especially gang crime, were the federal stings that we had this past year. We've had 2 this year that took out some significant folks, and we hope that has impacted some of the violent crime, especially the gang crime. And I knock on wood, Harbor Division is doing pretty good when it comes down to violent crime right now.
Thanks.
Any other hands around the table? None? Audience, any hands? Any questions? Yes, sir.
Not specifically. I could sit here and tell you that we're going to target certain areas, but it wouldn't. I couldn't, with a straight face say yes. We're going to watch Peck Park, but we know Harbor Division is very kind of special in the eyes of South Bureau. They send a lot of assets down to Harbor Division, and even with those assets, I know because I'm at Cabrillo Beach at 4:00 in the morning, setting up for the rest of the evening, and we have people from Southwest 77th, and we have them patrol all these certain areas. And can they be every place at once? Could they cite more people? Absolutely. But it would just take them out of the mix, right? So I can't say that they'll concentrate on Peck Park, but I'll certainly let Jason know that I didn't know about the fire, so I'll let him know to kind of research and see what he can do, because as SLOs, we have to come up with some type of safety plan for certain areas. But I'll let Brewer know to have some type of, and I think, don't they have an annual picnic or something up here for 4th of July, or no? Does anybody know? Okay, so in any case, majority of our forces are down in Cabrillo Beach for the coastal celebration. And we do have violent crime task force units, as well as outside units that are supposed to be doing crime suppression in Olive Harbor Division. Okay, so I'll let him know.
All right. I think that takes care of it. Junior, thank you very much for being here.
No, thank you. Thank you.
And our last representative will be Octaviano Rios from the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment.
Hello, everybody. Good evening. Sorry I missed your last meeting last month. Again, Octaviano Rios with the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. I know you have a goal to end at 8:30, so I'll try not to have paper balls thrown at me with my long report here. So real quick, virtual meetings, just a quick update. The department partnered up with State Senator Portantino with regards to Senate Bill 411. We did email all 99 neighborhood councils and board members, so you should be able to look at the recording and get some information about that. The short of it is it's going to be extended a little bit, it sounds like, according to the state senator, with regards to getting something approved by the state. So we may be looking into August or September to consider adding virtual meetings as an option for neighborhood councils exclusively. Second, department changes. Gibson Nyambora got promoted to lead the innovation division. Atsiri Camarena will lead the civic leadership division. And last but not least, Marilu Guevara will be leading the neighborhood council awareness and engagement division. All three are very well experienced with working with neighborhood councils. If you haven't worked with them, they're very customer service focused, so I'm very happy for them. Congratulations to them. And last but not least, I know, two more items. Congress of Neighborhoods, just a quick reminder. I know last time I gave you a pretty thorough report, but just a reminder that the Congress will be held in person Saturday, September 23rd. Pretty much an all-day affair. It's free to both board members and stakeholders, and it will be held at City Hall. Neighborhoodcongress.la. Neighborhoodcongress.la is the website. And then last but not least, the end of fiscal year deadline. There's a few that came and went, but the one that's fast approaching is June 20th. That's the final date for bank card transactions. And of course, there's going to also be up to $10,000 rollover for each neighborhood council for next year. And I think that covers it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any hands? Any questions? John?
Oh, yes, the T-shirts, the famous T-shirts. So thanks, I appreciate you bringing that up. Very popular item that we have been getting requests on a status on T-shirts. They still haven't gotten ordered. I thought we had a full room full of them, but those were all, I guess, promotional items. So it was my mistake. I misinterpreted that as being we were ready to go to have T-shirts sent out. But we did submit everybody's sizes for those T-shirts. I didn't get 100% response from all of the neighborhood councils. So if you didn't respond to that email and you want one, please follow up with me with your size. If you don't want one, that's cool as well. Not a problem. But if you do want one and you're not listening and or ignoring me, you might end up getting a small. So just let me know what size before the order gets put in. So thank you.
Any other hands? I don't see any in our audience. I don't see any hands out there either. So, Octaviano, thank you very much for being here.
Thank you very much. And Dan, thank you for, Mr. Dixon, I don't know if you're listening. Thank you for your service on the board so many years and all your diplomacy throughout the years working with community stakeholders. It was always nice to see you at work with all your experience working on very difficult issues. And I know you have a nice partner in crime that you would travel with to check out community issues. So thank you so much on behalf of the department for your service.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you for that. We're going to move on to the consent calendar, agenda item number 7. If I can have a motion in a second so that we can have... Well, first of all, let me ask, do we need to remove anything from the list? Minutes, removing David Rivera from community issues and removing Mary Chan from port, environment, and sustainability.
Second, Thomas Norman.
Any discussion? No discussion. Let's do voice count or vote count.
Okay, for the consent calendar, John Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon.
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Gwen Henry.
Not here.
Melanie Lebrecq.
Yes.
Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Dan Norman.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Yes.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
Adam Stevenson.
Yes.
Angela Sumner. Yes. Chris Valle.
Yes.
Gwen back? No. Okay, so not voted. So we have 14 ayes and 1 not voted.
Okay. Thank you very much. Let's move on to agenda item number 8, Budget and Finance Committee. Melanie, you got it.
Okay, first item is going to be the MER, and that is on page 11. Okay, and this is out of committee. Any discussion? Okay, call for the vote. Thomas Norman.
Aye.
John Barbera.
Aye.
Vic Christensen.
Aye.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon. Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne. Yes. Adam Stevenson.
Yes.
Gwen Henry out of room. Melanie Lebrecq, yes. Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Angela Sumner. Chris Valle.
Yes.
Okay, next item is the budget through May. It's on page 13. Okay, and there's $10,040.15 left. This out of committee. Any discussion? Thomas?
Aye.
John Barbera?
Yes.
Vic Christensen?
Aye.
Ray Regalado?
Yes.
John DeMiglio?
Yes.
Dan Dixon?
Aye.
Craig Goldfarb?
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne? Adam Stevenson?
Yes.
Melanie Lebrecq, yes. Kelly Miller?
Yes.
Angela Sumner? Yes. Chris Valle?
Yes.
Okay. Let's see on the agenda how they have this listed. Okay, so next item is our fiscal budget for next year that starts in July. We have to submit this in order to get our money. So if you look at page 14 and 15 and 16, how it breaks down, our basically our operational expenditures went up a little bit because we're back in person. The neighborhood purchase grants $3,000. We allocated 1 newsletter for $5,100. Candy Cane Lane newsletter outreach funds would have an unallocated $7,198. my calculations come up that we will have in August, September time about 8,300 in rollover. That being said, we have to buy a new laptop, we have to buy a new projector, because that is not ours, and we need a new printer, which all in said is going to be about $2,300 that we're going to have to spend. And that will have to come out of that unallocated funds when we get them. But, so you see it, this is out of committee. Anybody have any comments? Are we good to go with this for preliminary budget to submit?
I guess one question. Do we have to specify an amount allocated for the AV equipment, or is that just the
No,
estimate?
that'll come in July.
Okay.
Cynthia? I can't hear you.
The Zoom license for 200, does that mean we're going to continue Zoom?
I still can't hear you.
The Zoom license for 200, does that mean we're going to continue with the Zoom?
Well, that has to be included because we have to pay for that if we're going to use it. If this SB 411 goes through and we can do like a hybrid meeting, we have to have that Zoom license to do it.
Good, that's what I was wondering. Thanks.
All righty? So,
one more quick question. I totally support the budget, support the new printer, computer, and projector. The outreach unallocated funds of $7,198, that's where that would come from?
No.
Or is that a different unallocated fund?
There's an unallocated fund that we're going to roll over. There's an amount of money that we're rolling over from this year, and it will come out of our rollover funds. It's like $8,300.
Okay, that's the rollover. So this outreach unallocated funds, what are other things that could be used for?
Those are like if we decide to do another Pride event or if we do a movie, that type of stuff, that's where that'll come from.
Thank you.
All righty? So call for the vote. Thomas Norman.
Aye.
John Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen.
Aye.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon.
Aye.
Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Adam Stevenson.
Yes.
Gwen Henry.
Aye.
Melanie LeBrecq, yes. Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Angela Sumner. Yes. Chris Ballier.
Yes.
Okay, and the final motion is the budget for the movie was a little under because the tax. They charge us tax on the printing, so we are under $10.33 for the tax for the printing. So we have to increase that on the budget. So this is out of committee. Any discussion? Okay. Thomas Norman.
Aye.
John Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen.
Aye.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon. Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Adam Stevenson.
Yes.
Gwen Henry.
Aye.
Melanie Breck. Yes. Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Angela Sumner.
Yes.
Chris Ballier.
Yes.
And that's it.
Thank you. We're going to go on to the Board of Environment and Sustainability Committee.
Thank you. We had a productive second in-person meeting with good attendance, discussion on things like the bridge and other issues. The one we had agendized and we have on the docket today for this group's consideration is a motion related to the LA Regional Water Control Board order. We worked on this committee, and if you haven't read it, it's on page 17 of your packet. Really wanted to make sure that that the law is being followed, and that we encourage the public participation plan that is an option to be endorsed. We have had speakers on this topic before at this group, and I don't think I need to read the whole documents that you have in front of you. So I'd like to place this before the board for a vote.
Is that a committee?
And this is out of committee, and it was approved unanimously.
So, any questions, any comments? No hands? Take the count.
Okay, so I can hold.
Okay, for John Barbera.
Yes.
Nick Christensen, aye. John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon.
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb.
Abstain.
Cynthia Gani. Gwen Henry.
Aye.
Melanie Loy.
Yes.
Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Ben Norman. Thomas Norman.
Yes.
Lou Regalado.
Yes.
Adam Stevenson.
Yes.
Angela Summers. Yes. Chris Valle.
Yes.
Okay, 13 ayes, 2 abstentions.
All right. Thank you, and that's our report. Co-chair Gwen will be leading the meeting in June, as I will be absent in Italy with some students. Thank you.
We have the Planning and Land Use Committee. Anyone here for Planning and Land Use?
Jason.
Thank you, Jason.
Okay, so coming out of Planning and Land Use Committee, we have 3 motions to be considered. The first one is on the comments of the notice of preparation for the Vincent Thomas Bridge project. Now, you just saw probably a little more detailed view than we had at our committee meeting. However, I think the comments that we made are still relevant to bring to their attention. Many of these are details around the shutdown itself as to routes and should we have street parking disabled during that time, and also coordinate, importantly, with other agencies, including the SR 71 Interchange Reconfiguration Project, West Harbor Construction, Phillips 66 Marine Terminal Improvement Project, Alameda and Anaheim Street widening, and so on and so on. So without going through the whole thing, I'll assume that you've read most of these guys. We want the shortest possible time for construction. We feel that's a priority. But if that's not the route option chosen, then if they do want to do partial shutdowns, consider both lanes, consider avoiding truck traffic on the bridge and give priority to dock workers, especially during peak hours. So that's for the consideration of the board.
And it's out of committee, so.
Yeah, it's on page 25 for all those that don't know where it is.
Any discussion?
Yeah, we passed this out of committee before this, and for the next day, Tim McOsker wrote his letter, which was basically what most of the ask. I think this should be sent back again to committee to be reviewed because a lot of it's either redundant or needs to be looked at I'm not getting the words together correctly. Look back in reference to what we've seen and what we've just heard, because this was really a very preliminary thing and we didn't have this information. I move that we send this back to committee. Because we didn't have all this information.
So.
Second.
Seconded.
Cynthia. Any discussion?
When does planning and land use meet, and when do we meet as a board? Or has the agenda already been scheduled for planning and land use for this month? And I believe that the deadline for comment is July, so, yeah, so. To the 10th. I don't think we're going to make it, are we? We can't possibly.
July 10th will be our July meeting.
Yeah, that's pretty close.
Is there time even?
I mean, on that. Everything that they say tonight isn't written in stone yet. And everything that was stated, as I said earlier, and has been stated by others earlier, whether it's redundant because someone else said it or whatever, I think it has to be submitted only because they need to hear it. And they need to hear it multiple times to know that there is a community feel behind it. So I think there is a purpose to keep the letter as is, or the motion as is, because it needs to be heard. Thomas.
Yeah, I wanted to speak in favor of acting tonight on this for similar reasons. It's one of the topics that most of the stakeholders in my area have spoken about. There's a lot of concern. I'd like our neighborhood council to be on record. Having gone through this, I know there's some new information we have. Our processes are slow. I don't see anything that makes us look foolish or is not something that should have been considered, right? We're getting information. It's not saying you must build a new bridge or anything. It seems to be fairly well crafted with information at that time. And if we really want to do something amended, there's enough time to do another one by the 10th, but I wouldn't want to stop this one, right? We risk having nothing. So I speak strongly in favor of this.
Anyone else have a comment? No? Right. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. Let's vote on the motion presented by Craig. Can we take a vote count?
Okay, John Barbera.
No.
Ned Christensen, no. John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon.
No.
Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Gwen Henry.
No.
Melanie LeBrecq.
No.
Kelly Miller.
No.
Ben Norman.
No.
Thomas Norman.
No.
Ray Regalado.
No.
Adam Stevenson.
No.
Angela Sumner.
No.
Chris Faye.
No.
Okay, that's 3 ayes and 12 nays.
Okay, so the amendment or the motion fails. So we need to vote on the motion as it stands, as it was originally presented. So I believe we can take account on that now.
Okay, John Barbera.
Yes.
Dick Christensen, aye. John DeMiglio.
No.
Dan Dixon.
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb.
Abstain.
Cynthia Gagne.
No.
Gwen Henry.
Yes.
Melanie LeBrecq.
Yes.
Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Ben Norman.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Yes.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
Adam Stevenson.
Yes.
Angela Sumner.
Yes.
Chris Faye.
Yes.
12 ayes, 2 nays, 1 abstention.
Okay, the motion passes as written. Next, Jason.
Okay, so next motion is around a request to amend the cannabis ordinance to include port properties used as parks and open spaces. It's pretty much as it says. Currently, port properties, which are parks, are not considered under the same use as other types of parks, so this would amend that to include port parks with regards to cannabis ordinance.
Out of committee, any questions, comments on the item? I see no hands, so let's go ahead and take a vote.
John Barbera.
Yes.
Dick Christensen, aye. John DeMiglio.
Abstain.
Dan Dixon.
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb.
No.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes. Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes.
Abstain.
Yes.
Okay, the item passes. Item number 3, Jason?
Okay, item number 3 is to consider a motion changing the haul route for 505 South Center, the courthouse property, to include the 6 a.m. to 7 a.m. time slot on weekdays. This, I can put some more color around this. Extending it to this additional hour would allow them to shrink from about approximately 5.5 months to 3.5 months, the hauling out of material. So that additional hour would greatly reduce the amount of time needed to get that part of the construction project finished. 7 to 9 a.m. is excluded from hauling due to the school presence, and then it's 9 until 3 p.m. as currently approved. So 9 to 3 is currently approved. They would like to add 6 to 7 a.m., and out of committee we approved it.
Out of committee, any questions or comments?
Just a quick question. Which page number is it? Is it in the written packet?
21.
And I'm sorry, just again, what's the degree to which the project would be shortened by adding the hour?
2 months, from 5.5 to 3.5.
And just out of curiosity, so once again, it's 6 a.m. to 7 a.m., and the impact to the community being woken up, or does it seem...
This would be on Harbor, so the truck route wouldn't necessarily be going through much residential. They've already spoken to the center lofts who approved this in order to reduce the time of construction of this phase. So they were already involved.
Thank you.
Any other questions, comments? No? Let's go ahead and take the vote count.
Okay, John Barbera.
Yes.
Vic Christensen, aye. John DeMiglio.
Yes.
Dan Dixon.
Yes.
Craig Goldfarb.
Yes.
Cynthia Gagne.
Yes.
Gwen Henry.
Yes.
Melanie Lebrecht.
Yes.
Kelly Miller.
Yes.
Ben Norman.
Yes.
Thomas Norman.
Abstain.
Ray Regalado.
Yes.
Adam Stevenson.
Yes.
Angela Sumner.
Yes.
Chris Valle.
Yes.
Okay, 14 ayes and 1 abstention.
Time check, we are at 8:32.
We are at 8:30. I'm going to suggest that agenda item number 9, unless there's something of import, Thomas?
Oh,
on that one?
they were dark. Nothing.
That's right, yeah. Okay, so we can bypass that. I'm going to...
I can't even hear you.
Sorry about that.
Thanks, Melanie. Yes, Budget Day. This coming Saturday from 9:30 to 1. It's on Zoom. The mayor is coming. There's going to be people from the CAO's office. There's going to be a panel of the plenary system. It's the opening thing. At 9:30 is going to be really, really, really good, and it's on Zoom again, unfortunately. So please register and come.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to take that as our Budget and Finance Committee report. And I want to give our ad hoc committee, because they've done some work on the agenda. So you want to say a few words on that?
I didn't think we'd get this far. We went over the stuff, and we were looking at time limits, and we're looking at how to follow up on the meeting and use Robert's Rules of Order. Okay. And since this is about the board meeting and agendas, if you guys are going to have a discussion on the side, then maybe we'll put this off to the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. The only other thing that we may need to just report on the public safety report, the report is listed according to Melanie. You got to read it. There's a lot of important information there.
And also the town hall emergency prep hazards thing. Just go read them because they're there, and it's pretty detailed.
Okay, with that said, we are 4 minutes late. Next month we'll get better. Without objection, I'm going to adjourn the meeting. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for everything. Good night.
Also, there's a ton of pizza left, so don't be shy and grab some and take it home.
And there's buckets over there for the compost buckets. Yay!
Are being cleared as people are moving into